Okay, we are now going to move into our Q&A session. So for our first question, recharge opportunities in the San Joaquin Valley are huge, but how does agricultural drainage, or I imagine infiltration from agriculture and salt management factor into that?
This is Graham. That sounds like a question for me. It's an excellent question. The groundwater quality in the Central Valley is deteriorating because of recharge from irrigation. The only way to stabilize that water quality is to try and curtail that as best as possible, but also to recharge with cleaner water. In terms of salt management, the biggest problem is that the basins are closed basins because of the way they've been managed. That is, any salt coming into the basin from within the system through rock-water interaction, for example, doesn't get out because the main exit for the water is now irrigation evaporation. So filling these basins up to the point that the water and the salt has natural exits again is, in my view, really the only solution for balancing the salt imbalance. These basins are currently accumulating salt. And filling them up and developing more natural discharge points is really the only way to stabilize that. That's happening on a century timescale.
And if I could just add, there is a very large effort that's been ongoing for a number of years, the CV Salts program, which is a salt nutrient management plan that's being developed on a very large scale. And that's part of the reason for that is to help the salt management in the basin. It's well recognized and it's being dealt with through this kind of a process. But as Graham says, increasing recharge is needed, and so we've got a little bit more work to do there on the science side to get there, and a lot more work to do in terms of designing projects, massive projects that can help address that.
Thanks very much. Okay, for our next question, could you talk briefly about how recharge and storage occur where the land has subsided? Does the aquifer expand again?
The short answer is no. But the part of the aquifer system that is compacted is not the aquifer sands and gravels themselves, it's the silts and clays. There can be a little bit of expansion, but not much.
And Graham, I would just add that, we have to kind of think about these aquifer systems a little more differently than we have in the past. The fine grain units, the clays, store a lot more water than the coarse grain materials. So, there's a lot of storage in the San Joaquin or the Central Valley as a whole in these clays that get slowly squeezed out over time when you get compaction, and we're losing that storage. You can start to think about that as some of the main storage in these large aquifer systems, and the more coarse grain units as the conveyance or conduits for moving water.
That's very true, and our research shows that kind of contrary to what most people assume, when you recharge that system, since more than half of it is not aquifer, that is, it's silts and clays, most of the increase in groundwater storage happens in those fines, even if they've previously compacted, which doesn't mean they expand, but it means that the fine grain part of the system is a heretofore unappreciated mechanism in the storage of groundwater.
The other thing about that is, of course, they're more reactive, so you can have more reactions going on, and you can actually have things moving out of that you don't necessarily want in your water supply.
Yeah, some of the arsenic contamination has been attributed to subsidence driven compaction and squeezing out waters in the clays that might be high in arsenic.
Thank you all. So if there was one thing that you could do to increase aquifer storage and recharge nationwide, what would it be? And maybe Van could take this.
Well, I think I think that the process we went through here in Texas, you know, I don't think I can fairly say I understand how the rules would play out in every state across the nation. But um, so I guess I probably won't go into the legal side of that. I think if you're in a state where you do have issues of, because surface, answers two ways. If you're in a state where surface water is owned by the state and there are issues about beneficial use and being able to store that, obviously that has to be addressed. That was one of the key hangups here in Texas. But I would say educating people to the potential for ASR, and through the agencies that you might have, getting the word out to make people aware how important that storage mechanism can be and the benefits of that storage mechanism over what we might see as more traditional means.
And could I add to that just a little bit, Cassie? I think Van hit it on the head, that education's key, and I think it's really a shift in thinking. If cities and urban, if we want to continue to grow, we need to figure out how to make a sustainable supply. And we've been very good at getting water out of the ground. We need to get very good at putting it back into it. That's the bottom line. And the technologies out there, the tools, it's really a matter of education, acceptance, dealing with the permitting and regulations, and better understanding the site-specific technical aspects you need to address. So it's really a mind shift. And I think through organizations like AGI and National Groundwater Association, International Association of Hydrogeologists, and getting to the capital of the states and the nation, really getting that message out is how we can help do that to bring it back to the state and local and regional level.
Yeah, I agree. Well said by
Wow.
both you guys. Well, I think whenever people talk about water security, especially at the water resources management level and politically, people talk about surface storage. You can build surface storage with one or two big projects, but the big opportunities are underground. And I think as soon as people recognize that and recognize the benefits of the subsurface storage that maybe haven't been mentioned, then that's a key part of the education process to turning people's attention toward ASR.
Thank you so much again, Tim, Graham, and Van, for sharing your time, expertise, and insight with us today. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.